Hello, this is Steph from the Village Storytelling Centre. I was asked to interview people who were born and raised in Drumchapel to gain some insights about family life. These are just a few wee snippets of some truly amazing stories that portray a very strong, caring and resilient community.
I was born 1980 up in Faircairn, that's up top end of Drumchapel, up near the farms. Stayed there, I was 8-year-old, but I've some memories up there. I remember riding my bike up there, I got taught how to ride my bike. I remember it was all tenements, they were all 4 high. All the neighbours used to always sit at the bottom of the course with a cup of tea. All the women used to sit, I don't know where the men were, couldn't even tell you where the men were, but all the women were always at the course and all the kids were always out playing in the street. There was one car in the whole street and I still wasn't allowed to cross the road.
Actually, we used to go up the Bluebell Woods, but they're not like the woods they are today. So, but that was the thing about Drumchapel when we were kids. When we hit a certain age, we were told to be home for dinner, so we could do what we wanted, as long as we were in the house for dinner. And then it was like after dinner we would get told the time to come in. So as long as you were in for that time, there was no, like checking up on you or parents felt, well, my mum and dad must have felt safe to let us do things like that. So that's the way it was.
I was either along a burn, climbing trees, jumping into haystacks with my pals, or I was walking fences or playing football at a pitch, or
I was chatting doors and running away.
doing things like that. Aye.
Stuff you could do. The adults now, do you know what I mean? So it wasn't as if we were brats, it was just...
I remember, do you remember going to the buses and asking them for a ticket? No, for a ticket and a free run?
I stayed in 41 Lockgoing. That was my first house growing up. And then the houses got decanted when I was 11. And we moved back into the same houses when I was 12, but we moved into number 39. But it was the same people that moved back. That was one of like the first builds that got done, but the houses never got took right down, they just got refurbished. And we moved back then. But we only get decanted like round the corner, like you were still in the same area and still round about the same people.
The place we lived, the house we lived in, it was like, a rented flat in Faircairn Avenue just up the hill, and it was a terrible flat, but again as a kid I never knew any different. That was my life, that was my environment that I was born into, and it was always happy. It was never like, as a kid you didn't think I was a tramp, or you wouldn't compare yourself to like kids from the other areas because that's all you knew. You only knew the area you lived in and the sort of environment that you sort of grew up in.
But there's a lot of houses getting pulled down when we were growing up, like tenements. So they were empty, derelict for months and months and months. So that was just like a big playground.
Play area.
And what were they getting pulled down for?
It was just the regeneration of the area.
It was like everybody knew everybody. Do it was like, we used to arrange it in primary, so when we get back home night we'll be outside and we'll start playing, and then other times, like weekend days, you would be away the whole day, as long as you came in for tea at that time, and if you were told the time to come in and you were in at that time. You weren't there at that time or weren't there for tea, you never got any tea, you didn't get back out.
We used to jump the midgie bins and then raid them for like toys or whatever.
Pens, if you found pens, it was great.
So see nowadays people get their stuff to charity shops.
That was
we used
charity
to just put it in the bin and we used to go round the backs.
To jump the midges.
And you could, it's not like you went through all the bins, it was just obvious. There's a toy hanging out and you check it, there's like hundreds of toys in here.
There was definitely a strong sense of community there, and it was quite safe, even though on paper it would be, crime stats would be very bad, or you would hear about, stories about people getting, mugged, or people breaking into places, or cars getting broken into. But as a kid, you just felt safe because you're always in a street area, or in a sort of wider street area where people would know who you were, or it would be other family members or other sort of neighbours who would look out for you.
We stayed right at the top of a hill, and it was called Up the Hill, right? It's still called Up the Hill. And I stayed right at the top of that hill. But I went to school down the hill, but down the hill and the top and up the hill fought with each other. That was all right going to school and back, but see after school time, see that hill, you couldn't walk up or down it. But it was just young ones, all big sticks and stones and.
See the gang culture. They never see unless you're involved in the activities they were involved in. They would leave you alone. They wouldn't just get a huzzy for nothing.
So it was kind of personal disputes
Aye.
as opposed to
Aye.
something that was...
Aye.
You could watch it in the street and it would be, you know, it's not going to be your family, so you're safe. So you would probably find a lot of people were watching it and weren't really bothered because it's nothing to do with them. You were kind of lifestyle, and I never felt unsafe growing up in Drumchapel at all.
Nah.
Never at all.
The earliest memory I've got was always my mum. She was always up in the morning first thing, away doing, I think she was like cleaning or doing a domestic job in Drumright House. And then I was at school, and then like I would come back in and dinner was made, and then she was back out in the evening. And my dad, he just had a normal job, like, you know, Monday to Friday, 8 till 5 sort of thing. But then in later life, like, he was injured, he hurted his back, so he wasn't able to work anymore. So my dad was around the house a lot more than, you know, what my mum was, which was quite odd at the time, because at that time it was always the traditional that dad would go out and work and the mum would stay home and do all the things, you know, all the housework and all that sort of thing, all the domestic stuff.
My mum used to, honestly, man, she was always doing stuff ways, I remember. I don't remember my dad doing so much ways.
No,
but see days out and stuff.
My
My
mum
dad was
doing
the builder,
stuff.
he used to like build his pool tables and things like that, and
Fix it.
remember
I mean,
he
she
built
says build us, she means build him.
Aye, and we get to use it.
well, he built me a dollhouse, and actually wish I was talking about it a couple of years ago. Like,
That's right,
he
aye.
built me an actual
Big,
dollhouse,
massive
I worked in proper
dollhouse.
marble flooring and all that, and I loved it. I wish I actually kept it for my daughter now. But that was kind of my dad, just worked all the time. Like, he was always in big long shifts.
Aye, I know.
But when we did have like family functions, like communions and that, he was at the park playing football
Aye.
for like a good half an hour.
He actually
weather.
built, get this, he built a swimming pool, right? Now, we had a park around the back of your back door basically, and when it was getting pulled down,
I remember
it was
that,
a
actually.
hot summer one time, and him,
Aye,
my dad,
and the
and a
wee
few of the other
park
guys
next to
to
the
the
flats.
close started going out and digging into the tarmac. It was like, they actually dug a big hole,
I remember
and then
that.
put a big, set that, is it tarpaulin?
Aye.
Down, and then filled it with water, and all the weeds were jumping in it. Swear to God, do you remember
No, I
that?
don't remember that.
But
Oh
I
man,
remember
it was
that.
the best summer ever. He actually built a pool, just like a big hole, and put some
But
stuff
that's
to
what they kind
to
of
put the water
done,
in.
keep everyone's busy in the day
Oh,
stuff.
man,
You couldn't do
that's-
that
I
now, imagine
remember
going into a park and start building a
Things
hole
like
for a
that.
pool.
That was the sort of
We did get a clout, but it wasn't like often, do you know? Because I mean, like, every child they explore and they do things that they shouldn't do and things like that. Like when I got caught smoking and then my dad caught me. If there were people to catch me. So I got a clout for that. I'll tell you, I never smoked again.
As I said, was never allowed to cross roads, was never allowed to go anywhere and other things. And then when I was 16, I got my key to the house, and I was never allowed to stay out, kind of thing. But she would rather, if I was doing things, I was in the house where she could watch me, rather than down the park or walking about fields or whatever.
Well, so you had like Essenside and Stone Dyke and Inchfad Club, the Lock Going Club. My mum and dad actually ran that as well. They ran the Thursday night Lock Going Club. So each wee area had its own like somewhere for young people to go, and even the population back then was a lot more than what it is now. So there was obviously a lot of demand for that type of service, and then the traditional play schemes. So during the holiday periods, mums and dads out working, whatever else, so all the wains are just dumped in a big play scheme, and you're away, you know, just running about all day, and then going to day trips and stuff like that. It was amazing.
Was that like run by the school?
There was a local group called Drag, which is
Aye.
Drumchapel Adventure Group, and they would go abseiling, mountain biking, skiing, blah blah, loads of stuff
weekend breaks.
we would never have been able to do without
That group.
the
that
amount of
group
money it cost
providing the services.
It was called the Phoenix. We went. That's up the hill again. But and it was a hall like this. But like one night it maybe they'd pull out like the table tennis, and we'd have a table tennis club that night, and then another night it maybe be archery, or then the next night they'd maybe get Esdale, who was the local DJ at the time, and he would put on a wee like disco for us all one night, or And then would they play schemes in the summertime, or would...
1995, I must have been about, I don't know, 15 or something, 14, 15, and I got like a SNES console, and it was amazing. It was like eye-opening. You're thinking, oh my god, like what is this? Like you plug it into your telly and you're sitting playing it. It's just like, you know, amazing. But it wouldn't consume you. It wouldn't be like, that's all I'm going to do. I'd still be out playing football. I'd still be out, you know, like playing with my pals, even just walking about with your pals in the freezing cold. That would be your routine, and you'd catch up with each other, and you would, you know, do silly things and whatever else.
As soon as I done my exams, I left school at 16, and ended up getting a job probably most people you spoke to in Scotmail, because basically everybody at 16 that left school got a job in Scotmail. And I think about it now, it's horrific, but we used to get picked up and sit in the back of a van, took her up the Kingston Bridge to somewhere. I can't even tell you where this place was. And then I fell pregnant. I fell pregnant at 17.
I went to college to do sport. I wanted to become a PE teacher. That was my thing. I thought, you know, I'll play football, I'll play badminton, I'll play tennis, I'll go and become a PE teacher. So I went and did like an NC and that sort of thing. But at the same time, I also worked part-time as a youth worker, and again it was brilliant. It was getting paid money to go and play football, getting paid money just to have a laugh and a joke with some of the guys that were only like a year younger than me as well at that time.
I've got one at 14 and one at 9. Do you know, like, and they go out, so they're the ones like, make sure you get your phone on you, whereas phones weren't even invented when I was younger. You had a house phone if you were lucky, if your mum and dad could afford the bill.
It's strange because my daughter, she's 2, so when I take her out to Clydebank, I take her read pram, and see the amount of stares she gets over the older women,
Because she's playing.
Because she's playing me a wee pram, because you don't see it anymore.
Aye.
Oh, look at her in a wee pram, a wee doll. And it's quite sad because it makes me realise that they're no used to seeing it anymore, and you don't see it anymore.
It's going to fade away.
People don't, and it really worries me for my kids and the future generation. It really does. I've been seeing it for years.
Living here just now, I would say there's a lot more opportunity. You've got a lot more, like school, for example. I think the education's a lot better. I think the housing's a lot better. Like, and I think the overall health's a lot better than what it was. And yeah, that sense of community's still there. There's a lot of groups for like different age ranges. I was only talking about like young people earlier on about all the different clubs that aren't here anymore. But in terms of support, in terms of resources, I would say there's a lot more places where you can tap into if you're needing help and support about certain things.
Remember my mum and dad always said we used to play kick a can. Never played kick a can in my life, but they always spoke about kick a can, and when they came out of the street lights on, they used to always say that stuff.
Simple things.
Things like we're saying now, I'd love to take them back to the 60s when we grew up, all the stuff we've done. Maybe they'll say that to their wains. I wish I could take my wains back to 2014.
When we sat in the house and played the computer all day, my pal.
Aye.
What is that? They're going to actually lose, like, see when they grow up in social situations, they're not going to have anything.
But again, at the same time, we remember our parents saying, well, when I was younger, it was just better. I remember that. My dad said it.
My dad was a troublemaker.
My dad said it. My mum said it.
I think you've definitely still got that sense of community. It's definitely there because you've still got your people from different generations with different values still looking out for one another.
I'd like to express my sincere thanks to 3D Drumchapel, and especially to all of the participants of the Family Album project for sharing their lives and experiences with me. We hope that hearing some of these wee stories will maybe bring back some memories of yours. Remembering the people, the events and places from our past that we still hold dear helps us live our lives in the present, and helps us shape the lives of our families and community in the future.